Yo, this is for you. I am my number one fan.
Season
for
2.
you, this is for you. I am my number one fan. For you,
Season
yo,
2.
this is for you. I am my number one fan. For you, I am my number one fan. I'm trying to get you from here to there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show niggas it ain't fair.
It ain't
How
fair.
I just came up, but you not there. Stuck in the same situation you been in.
Man,
They got
what?
the plug, you got the sound. You not just a groupie that's hanging around.
No, I'm not.
They got the stage, but you bring the lights. It's enough room at the top, we ain't gotta fight.
I am my number one fan.
I am that legend you stand for. When the crowd disperses.
What's going on? What's going on? This is Reese.
And Arnold,
You're listening to,
the Neighbors Podcast.
and we come to you every Monday at 6 a.m.
Yeah, you know what? I almost got lost on that because I forgot every Monday we do come. Every Monday we do come at 6 a.m.
So
I forgot about that.
we thank y'all for being here, tuning in with us, week in and week out. I know
Yes.
this is only episode number 2,
Yeah.
but guess what, y'all? We got a lot planned for you this year.
Yes, we do, y'all. Yes, we do. So, strap on, put your seatbelts on, put your little helmet on, whatever you need to do.
Right.
Because it's going to be a great ride.
So, yo, one of the things that's always affecting our community is this whole thing about relationships.
Oh, we just going to jump right into that.
Yeah. Let's not even waste no time today. And as we talk about these type of topics, we feel a little off sometimes because you don't want to say something that's dumb or retarded or incriminating or whatever else, right?
So you mean I can't say nothing? No more?
I mean, you can. I ain't got nothing to say.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So, but just to reiterate, for the two of us, we're both married.
Yes.
I will be married 20 years come September.
It's been that long?
Yes, sir.
Oh, not that long. That's great. That's great.
Right.
Not that long. Not
right.
that long. And 22 for me.
So when you think about that, we're coming from a position of being married.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since we was in that dating scene.
Mm-hmm.
So some things we'll talk about or bring up is going to come. It's back in Stone Ages, dark times, Ice Age, whatever.
So you have to forgive us if what we're talking about and it doesn't sound correct to y'all,
Right.
Especially what's going on today,
Right.
It's because, like Reese said, we haven't been in the dating scene in a long time, and
Right.
we don't plan to be back in the dating scene for a longer time.
Right. But we do have a little thing that one of our listeners have brought to our attention.
Oh yeah.
And he's talking about separating from his family.
You sure that wasn't that girl?
I mean, whoever it was, let's say guy, girl, whoever the individual is,
Mm-hmm.
they're separating from their family. They
Right.
would like to.
Right.
And partly because of, internal situations that's happening within the family,
Mm-hmm.
personal differences, things like that. We don't want to put the whole business out there. You get what I mean? For privacy's sake,
Mm-hmm.
and slander and all that type of stuff. But when you have a situation where, I understand that people grow apart.
Right.
I do understand that. And I understand that as each one of us matures, we start looking at things from a different lens. We're no longer in that 20, 25, 30-year-old, lens. We start looking for other things.
Right.
And our objectives in lives, in our lives, when you start looking at retirement, one person may be like, listen, I'm okay with my retirement package. The other one like, yo, I need, $300 million.
Right.
So
I'm trying to hang out with them.
Right. So, when you're, while you're sitting at home, sitting on a couch, and I'm sitting on a floaty in the Mediterranean somewhere, which one would you like? That's the question, right?
For me, I think it depends on who you're sitting with on that couch.
I want to be in the Mediterranean. I don't care if my wife is on the couch or not. She could be over there by herself. I'm gonna be in the Mediterranean.
Oh,
yeah, and she knows that part.
oh, okay.
I don't have.
I
there's no
just
problem
want to
with it.
make sure because if anything happens, I just want to make sure that I go on record saying I had no idea this was going to happen.
I mean, but I would like to say that for her, she's not going to want to sit on the couch.
Right.
She's
right.
going with me.
Well, I mean, that's the difference in your relationship opposed to other people's relationships.
Right.
Because you guys have built something together.
Right.
Which you would think that all relationships start out with some type of foundation.
Right.
You build, you structure, and then if you need to replace something, replace it. If you need to remove something, you remove it. But you still stay on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So with our listener, I think that like we said, people do grow away from each. They grow apart from each other. Things happen. Goals change. Ideals about how we were when we first started out is totally different.
Right.
So sometimes people are not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So, me personally, I think that when you're in a situation like that, if you was to tell the person and be honest with the person, be upfront, because I always believe that you should be able to give a person the option of doing something opposed to you just saying this is how it's going to be, because that softens the blow and it makes the situation more manageable.
So I think in this case with this particular individual, I don't get the sense that they're being upfront.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah.
I don't get that.
I grasp
sense,
that too.
And in that meaning, for our listeners, what's going on is, again, they just see things. He and the wife don't see eye to eye necessarily.
Yeah, it's a lot of relationships.
And then with that, in the breaking up of the family, she has kids, he does not.
Right.
And sometimes in that breakup, that can cause more hurt. In some cases, like, because one of the key things of what happens is, some of those kids that's in those relationships, all they know is that individual is their father or their mother.
Right. So that depends on how long that they've been together, know. And then coming from, I can come from all angles on this, as a child, relating to having somebody in your life and to be the potential mentor or role model for you and then leave out your life. So that would really be very devastating to a child that only known this person as their mother or father.
Right.
And then this person decides, well, I'm just going to take myself out the equation. And they're like, wow. The child is like, yo, what am I going to do now? Because for X amount of years, I've woke up every day to this person.
Right.
And now this person is no longer in my life. What am I going to do?
Right.
So
even with that, beyond the kids, I think, like, once you start really checking out of the relationship, and this is just my own opinion, I don't think it's wise that people start dating others at that time. I understand your eye might be on other people,
right?
But I don't think it's necessarily wise. And let's understand why I think that way. I think that, depending on the situation, and especially for those people that don't care, you don't know who you're gonna run into out there in those streets.
Correct.
You really don't know.
Correct. This is true.
And you don't know who is sitting out there across from you at the table. And you're so focusing on who you're sitting with and not realizing your surroundings. The next thing you know, as soon as you walk in the door, you're getting your shoes thrown at you.
Right.
You get what I mean?
Right.
And sometimes that can even happen if you're not even on the outs.
Right.
Sometimes people just, want to call and make up a big mess over something stupid, not realizing the situation.
So what would be the difference between if you were going through an issue with your spouse and then you say, you know what, I'm just going to start dating, opposed to when men just say, I'm just going to cheat?
I think, in my opinion, that guys that cheat try to be as quiet as possible. I think those that have almost checked out, they could care less.
Right, because right now they don't even care about the option, because now I have a new option.
Right. And sometimes even those that cheat, their feelings and stuff, they kind of get caught up in the dumb stuff. And they're like, wow, like, this is brand new. This is my new toy, whatever else. And don't realize, like, hey, you're still hurting someone
Correct.
in the long run.
Right.
Now, and back in the day, you've had a lot of people that had a family over here and a family over there.
Yeah, that was very common back in the day.
And that doesn't mean it doesn't happen today.
Right.
But also in some of that, are you mature enough to handle all of that?
True.
Are you really taking care of everything that's going on?
True.
And because, people are very possessive,
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you're doing that, and then now all of a sudden, this family over here, they want you more because their birthday is on the 13th, but this birthday over here is on the 15th.
Right.
But the birthday is on Friday, the other birthday is on Sunday, but everybody wants to go away. What do you do?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I've had friends in that position, and I listen to them. I just sit there and shake my head. Like, Reese, what you doing, man? I'm like, look, dude, you're just a dummy. You go ahead and do what you got to do. Now, it's one thing if you have a child prior to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a little different, right?
Right.
And then depending on the situation, everybody has their moment of weakness, and things happen. People have a child within the relationship,
Right.
another child within the relationship. But even with that, I think that comes with a level of maturity of handling that too.
And I have to agree with you on that because, like I say, I believe that anything can be handled if it's presented the correct way.
Right.
If you bring all parties that are involved, if you were to talk to them and explain and tell the truth about everything that's going on, all right. So I know some men and women, they're in relationships for convenience.
Right.
And they're there because they may not have nowhere to go, and they don't know how to get out of the relationship. So they cheat or they fabricate stuff and it becomes so toxic that they want to try to make the other person, get rid of them so it doesn't seem like it's their fault.
Right.
But as my age, as the older I get, the more if God forbid that I would have something happen to my wife or she decides to divorce me and I would have to go to the dating scene, I couldn't do it because the rules of engagement have changed so much over the last 20 years that, hey, I don't want to do this. Or, I don't, even if I just wanted to have fun, you can't even have fun.
Right.
Because anytime you enter into a relationship with a person, feelings get involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's for a day, 2 days, or whatever. It's a one night stand. You're going to develop something for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you handle it? So you already had this issue where you were going through what you were going through with your previous relationship and you didn't know how to deal with it. So how do you deal with this now? So now you have this one night stand and you like this girl, or she likes this man, and you have this one night stand and one of y'all feel for the other, but the other one don't feel for the the other one takes it for just what it is, a one night stand.
Yeah.
But you take it as, oh no, I feel something for this person. So how do you go through something like that when you don't even have the capability of working out the problems that you had before?
Yeah, I think as I'm listening to you, I really think that it's going to come down to the individual.
Right.
Truth be told, because the way you were, again, you and I are coming from a perspective of being married all this time.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that everyone has been goody two shoes or whatever else.
Right.
Everybody makes mistakes, whatever the situation might be.
Correct.
But I think it comes down to like you're stating, if you're strong enough to be upfront, if you're strong enough to say what's really on your mind without and saying it in a manner of not hurting someone's feelings.
Right. You have to have tact.
Right. Because I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we want to say, and then you're almost anticipating the other person receiving it is going to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
So you just say it in an arrogant way.
Right.
You get what I mean? And then in that arrogant way, it's taken the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, what is it? Somebody's getting, put in handcuffs.
Right. Or worse.
Right.
The funeral director's being called or something.
Right.
You don't know You don't know what a person is going through. So that's why I say I always believe that you should be able to give a person an option to accept things that are going on with you, and you should want to be woman and man enough to express, how you feel about certain things, because isn't that what about a relationship is about? Being able to talk to the person that you're with, being able to express yourself in such a way that the person doesn't get upset with you and understand what you're going through. So if there is a possibility of working this out, you can work this out.
But see, I think that's hard, because everyone does not feel feel like they have the freedom to express themselves.
True. I can agree with you on that too.
You get what I mean? And people do not always feel like they have the words to really articulate what's really going on in their head.
Right.
And I find I'm just gonna be honest for myself. I know sometimes I use words that's not really where I'm at that moment. But I say, hey, for an example, or lack for a better term right now.
Right.
But it does not necessarily fully explain where I am.
Right.
So, and then even with that, when you use those alternative words, sometimes the message gets lost.
That's true. But the point that I see that you're making, that you don't see that you're making, is this. You're making the effort to talk.
Yeah, but
even if the words are not exactly the words that need to be said, you're making an effort to communicate.
Well, me personally, I don't have a problem with talking.
Right. Yeah, we know.
I don't have a problem with talking. I don't have a problem with telling someone, not necessarily straight up, because I understand how to use tact a little bit. But overall, like, if you're a dummy, you're a dummy. Well, I can say it in a way that you're not feeling like a dummy, though.
Right. And I hate to call somebody a dummy, because when you say dummy, I don't think of somebody that's uneducated. I think of somebody with a hand up their butt because they're a puppet. So I always go back to Pinocchio, or with Geppetto and all that. Somebody's pulling your strings.
I'll put it like this: for me, especially at that moment, I don't care how you feel. You get what I'm saying? Like, if I feel like you're a dummy, you're a dummy. For something, for certain situations.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't just call people dummies.
Well, understand,
because you don't know how the person's going to react to that. You don't know how the person, because they may know, I am a dummy. You can't be telling me I'm a dummy. Right. Because the whole thing is to be. I believe the whole thing is to be not diplomatic, but to have a constructive conversation.
Right. So I'm a not to veer off too far off what we're talking about, but back in the day, so those of you who know, I grew up in church, and I used to travel a lot, and it used to be a group of us that was together all the time. And one of my friends, his name is Marcellus. He's up in Harlem right now, pastoring a church in Harlem, New York right now. And we had come up with our own language. So we called everybody a dummy.
Right.
So if you were to ever hear me pick up the phone, and I think you've heard me, as soon as I pick up the phone, I'm like, yo, dummy, what's up?
Yeah.
So, but we have that understanding. So for me, and this is just because we made up our own language, the word dummy is not as hurtful as it might be for, like you said, someone like you who was not around that.
Right.
It doesn't affect me. And because people have called me those names, besides Maurice, it doesn't bother me. You can call me whatever you want, as long as you don't get in my little 3-foot space.
Exactly. I agree with you. So by you using this different language, and you use the word dummy, for some it would be a hurt word, or they feel like they're being put down.
Right.
Is that similar to using the N word and dropping the ER and putting the A on the end?
See, for me, that type of word, because of the origin of it, really, and because of that I don't think hate has the hate. I'm sorry, the word dummy does not have the feeling of hate behind it. The feeling of really putting someone down per se,
right?
As the N word does. I think the N word was really put in a position to make a group of people feel less than who they are. So I personally do not like the word.
Right.
And in a sense of me describing of where someone really is, because the true meaning of the word is just ignorance, right?
Correct.
So if someone is acting in that manner, like, yo, you're really truly ignorant, I'll use it like that.
So is it safe to say that if you're talking to a child and you call a child a dummy, would that be hurtful to the child?
Okay, so in that, let's again, this is Maurice. I used to coach youth basketball and football.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that kids need support. So I would not call a kid a dummy.
Right.
Now, in explaining some things, talking to an adult or whatever else, somebody say, look, they just did a dummy move. That was just a dummy mistake. That type of thing.
Right.
But I would not call a kid directly to their face a dummy.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I think that's real disrespectful. And then once you hurt the kids' feelings, then the parents get involved, things like that. Because I won't want nobody to call my kid a dummy.
Right.
But an adult, you could be a dummy all day. but again, without me explaining the alternative language that we had amongst ourselves,
mm-hmm.
you want to understand that, hey, it's almost a term of endearment.
Right. So that was a comparison that I was trying to make between that and
right.
N-word, and how we say things.
Yeah.
And how we may think we're using tact, but because of we may say it in an aggressive way.
Right.
Or a non-aggressive way, depending on the situation, it's how the person may receive it.
Right.
So usually when a person is aggressive, you're usually aggressive back with them because you're like, yo, well, I'm not going to say aggressive. You're more on the defense.
Right.
Because you're like, yo, why is this person mad at me? Why are you talking to me like this?
Mm-hmm.
Which can turn into some type of aggression.
Yeah.
Where opposed that if you're, hey, dummy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. So then we're going here. Hey, dummy. Hey, my dummy,
Right.
And that's the whole thing about relationships.
Yeah. Relationships
are based on trust, communication, and how you assess and treat each situation.
Right.
And
let's understand that it's not going to be, for those of you who just start out a relationship, it's not you going to figure it out in 2 days.
No, nobody does.
Now,
Trust me.
Do you have some people can read people and kind of understand, but there's still going to be little quirks that you're not going to be able to pick up on 100%.
Especially when you're in love.
Right. Or you think you're in love. Right? Infatuation.
Yeah.
All those other little words.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So y'all need to, because on this particular topic, I really would like to hear from y'all.
Yes, because I'm sure it's a lot of people out there have been in similar situations, and it may not be to the degree of the person that wanted us to talk about this, but
I really want to get deeper into it so y'all can really understand the situation. But again, just want to make sure that he and his wife are not going to take this type of episode and use it in court and nothing like that.
Yeah, she or her husband should not do that. And not use this episode in court because I do not feel like sitting on a stand.
But keep in mind, you saw how general we kept it, right?
Of course.
So unless you come to us and say, hey, you could put my information out there directly, we will.
Right.
I have no problem with that.
Right, because everything is a learning, a teaching process.
Right.
So everything is something teachable for somebody else. Your mistakes could be something that can teach somebody else what not to do.
Right.
So that's why it's good to have these things out here. And this is part of everything that we're about with the Neighbors Podcast and the Neighbors community. This is what we want to do. So we want to educate people as much as we can on everything, as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want everybody to have productive and livable and caring lives.
Right.
And
keeping in mind that these type of conversations, as Arnold just mentioned, it does build up the community, but hopefully we could start to find love in ourselves,
Right.
and being honest with ourselves first in order for us to love someone else that's in our house
Mm-hmm.
or whoever we say, hey, is our loved ones. And then even our neighbors, ultimately getting to our neighbors and the community at large.
Right. And that's a very good point that you brought up, Reese, because if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else?
Right.
So that is a very good point.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they get in relationships and don't even care about themselves.
Right.
So how are they going to have your best interest at heart? How are they going to look out for things that need to be done for you by them?
Right.
So that is very important. You must love oneself.
Right.
Before you can love another.
So, again, me and my craziness, I'm thinking about this song by Heavy D when he says, I got to love me for me.
Exactly. I got to love me for me. And that's true because a lot of us can't accept who we are.
Right.
And only we know who we are.
And sometimes, I understand that we constantly change because society changes, situations change. How many people have lost their homes and lives and wives and this and that or whatever since 2017, 16, 17?
Right, correct.
Because of just how our country has changed, at the 8 years prior to that.
Right.
We're
not pointing the finger, but
right. Because I could just imagine what it's like living in a household with some of these senators and stuff right now that are really supporting our president, and where their spouses do not.
Yeah, so you can imagine what their relationship is going through right now.
Right.
Right. What are their spouses withholding from them?
Right.
Or how are they treating them?
Right. Because then that's vice versa too.
Yeah, of course.
Because everyone does not have the same viewpoint. And I think right now I think there's a lot of things that's going on that's making you stand on one end of the aisle or the other. Where, hey, there is still a lot of gray area.
Right.
There's a lot of gray area. And sometimes you need to be in a gray area to see where the left or the right is going.
Right.
But they want you to pick a side all the way. And sometimes that's not feasible.
Correct.
That's not feasible because when you think of just as you get older, overall you become more conservative anyway.
You do.
Overall.
You do.
Because you get set in your ways. You're not as adventurous anymore.
Right.
And like I've never been on a cruise. Now the young bull in me wants to go on a cruise, like I do.
But the old man says,
"Stay your side behind, right on land. You can wave to him.
That's right.
You can throw the bottle at the cruise ship, like you're christening it. Like
plus, you know what happened last time we got on a boat.
Listen, but because of that." Like when I look at people not buying yachts, but renting yachts and things like that, like I want to be able to go set sail somewhere and just be on an excluded island, like Seychelles or whatever else. Like you gotta get to that stuff on a boat.
Yeah. So that's what you're gonna have to get over, that fear of getting on a boat. Right.
And if y'all know where that is, let me know in the comments.
Yes.
You know where that is?
Where
Seychelles.
I thought that was outside of.
You can't let nobody know. You can't let them know. But we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
But if anyone is having a trip over there, let me know. Or
send us some pictures.
If you have gone, like he said, send us some pictures. But also let us know what's the what it was like. What was your experience being over there?
And please let me know what the dollar exchange rate was.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So we know how much money to take with us.
Right. Because I understand that there's no Mac machine necessarily right there.
No, it's all cash.
But y'all, it's that time again.
Yes, it is.
And we appreciate the love, support.
Yes, always.
And make sure you still have all your comments and your topics and concerns, keep sending them to us.
Keep sending them in, y'all.
You know,
keep sending them in.
And keep in mind that, you know, we did miss y'all. You know, that break that we had, we constantly talked about y'all.
Yeah, I think I missed y'all a little more, though.
And, well, I don't know, because we had this one fan. Oh gosh. You know, she's always.
I'm not going to say she's a stalker.
But sometimes you got to call a spade a spade. You know.
But we love her. Don't worry, we love her.
Yeah, she's the one we call our number one fan. So
we love her.
So hold on for a second, y'all. If y'all could tell us also, I'm gonna ask y'all a lot to do a lot.
So I hope you writing this down.
So, who is our number one fan? Who do we call our number one fan? And did we actually interview her?
Good question.
And what episode was that? If we did.
Oh, but you gave it away because you let them know it was a girl.
Well, she's okay. Yeah. All right.
And Mom, I know you are my number one fan, but it's not you.
Well, okay. Yeah, because we understand that our moms are our number one fans regardless.
Right.
All right. And let's put it like this: our wives are too. So
yes,
there's no need for us to acknowledge that because that's already said.
Exactly.
Okay. So, but that's already understood. So, but what I would like to say is that the one fan that we're talking about, she shouts us out all the time.
Always.
You know, and we really like that support.
Yes.
And she speaks to us, and she's literally our neighbor also.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
so if you remember who she is and what we interviewed her about, please let us know.
Right. So again, thank y'all very much for tuning in.
Yes, always.
And we love y'all. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter,
or wherever else you can find us.
And
if you see Reese in the street, follow him then.
Listen, it's already bad enough that I'm already dark skinned and I get followed in the stores anyway. So I don't need anyone else following me in the store.
I didn't want to bring that up, but you know that's why I don't go to the stores with you too much no more.
I mean, listen, I'm 6 feet, 6'1"
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not real easy to hide per se.
No, it's not.
And I'm not a small, thin guy either.
No, he isn't.
And so, yeah. And on top of that, you know, I don't have a problem with speaking to people, and I'm kind of loud sometimes in the stores or whatever. So, yeah, it'll be easy to find me.
Oh, that's why we're banned out of food court down in Delaware.
But, you know, the sad thing is that, you know, I run into old classmates and whatever else all the time. So, yeah. Normally when I walk out the door, I see somebody I know.
Yeah. So listen, y'all, we out of here. We've been trying to go, but, you know, it's hard because we haven't talked to y'all in a while. So
I know, y'all.
That's why it's taking us a long time to get out of here.
But we love y'all.
Yes, we do, y'all.
We got to pay these bills.
We do.
Peace.
Peace.
You are the agent and we look for change. You conquered the pressure and you did not fall, but you are a diamond and what's more than gold.